All right. So before I start, I'm Christian from Churchdesk. I founded this company. It wasn't supposed to become a company. I helped my mom in her church. It started out as a student project, and we've now been doing this for about 3 years. First of all, I forgot my glasses this morning, so I can't see all details, but we'll manage it as long as you can see me. And before I get started, I think I should just sort of frame this because we're, I guess, very different to the stories that we've just heard in the sense that we're a B2B company. So, you know, our data set is by far less. We have approximately 10,000 users, meaning staff or key people that are working in churches doing their stuff. Also, we have been very sales driven in the sense that we've been sort of outbound telesales, more or less sort of old school driven. So we have lots of data in Salesforce on acquisition cost, booking rates, all that stuff. But we have less data on all the other digital stuff that I'm going to talk about now. So a lot of what I'm going to present here is sort of the process or the line of thought going into the digital thing with automating things, and some of the thoughts and complications that we've sort of experienced getting there. So that was a bit of sort of intro to where I'm heading. But this is our customer. It's a church office. They're currently working offline. They have between 2 and 50 staff, and some of them have hundreds of volunteers, some of them have none. And we're on a journey to digitalize all the workflow, all the information, all the communication and admin going between these guys. And then a lot of them also have a big congregation next to that we're also trying to get onboarded. So we're sort of on an early stage journey, getting all this stuff digital. This is one of our users. She's sitting at a huge church in Bremen, in northern Germany, where they're managing, you know, millions of euros, basically, you know, huge institution. And she just got Churchdesk. It's on the screen, and she now has a new way of working digital. I won't go into too many details about Churchdesk, but I'll tell you something about the way to automation. This is how we try to pitch it. So where I'm trying to get is that we have a different sort of, you know, there are different things here than just, I'm going to say, just getting a user to scan a wine bottle or buy a ticket. We have lots of different users with lots of different perspectives and interests doing different things in our system. So all of these different systems or workflows or interests, we basically put into one system. So these guys working in our customer, our organization, didn't used to collaborate. They had their own system, did their own stuff in a fragmented way. And now we tell them, hey, look, let's do this all together. So this is, now I'm trying to get into, you know, where it became complicated when we tried to automate, because it was not just somebody who had to scan a wine or do a specific task. We have a lot of different users doing different things. So that's the kind of process that I'm going to try and present, how we came to it. And we came to it through a lot of manual work, a lot of things that didn't scale. So I'm going to leave sales for now because we're also working a lot on transforming our sales from very outbound into more digital, so lead gen, marketing automation, all that kind of stuff. But that's not what I'm going to talk about, because the journey that we came to a conclusion about half a year ago. We had these 10,000 users, we had done lots of sales, we had 0 churn, but we didn't know a lot about our customers. And we also sort of understood that to scale this, we need our customers, we need to understand our customers. We need them to refer our product. We need them to get fully onboarded. We need to understand how good is our market fit at this point. So there are a lot of questions that we hadn't really thought about. We'd just been selling and shipping our product because we happened to find sort of a market fit that we found was good. So we sort of stepped back and rebooted, went out to try and get some more information to try and scale eventually and try to automate things eventually. So we basically just imagine that we sort of walked into this company and started all over again, trying to understand our market fit, our customers, how they did, how they thought. And with the goal of getting network effects. with the goal of increasing, because we didn't see a lot of inbound for some reason. We had no churn. We were successful in doing outbound sales, but we had very little inbound. And that sort of triggered this. Another thing that triggered this was that we understood from our data, and it was completely random. One day we realized that a lot of our users are related to more than one church, which sort of indicates that there's a network going on. So many people either attend different churches or work in more than one church. So all of this came up that we need to understand our customers better and our market fit better. And I'm going to present, I think 3 cases with things that don't scale, getting to, hopefully, at some point, automation. Because as I said, we have 10,000 users, which is something we can comprehend it. So at this point, we can still open up for more manual work, which sort of seems like, sort of the opposite way of where we want to go. But we basically chose to implement a lot more triggers that asked our users to give us feedback. We opened up for a lot easier access to our support team with live chat and stuff. So we just basically opened up in all ways to get more feedback, get more information. And I'll get back to that in a minute. So these are some of the questions that we asked. We want to automate, for instance, the onboarding process. Because at this point, we didn't actually understand exactly how onboarded our customers were. We had a few indicators in terms of actions, but we didn't have churn. So it had never been sort of something that was top priority. But in order to get back to network effects and inbound and that whole long-term journey, we wanted to understand more. But where do we begin with automation? That was one of the questions. The other thing was that we have lots of data. We also lack data. I'll get back to the tools that we've been using. But a lot of the data doesn't, you can always make a conclusion, but is that the right conclusion? If they didn't log in for a few days, we could change something, but if it was because that they used something differently in our system or it had a different role than another one, it was hard for us to understand exactly just by looking at data and doing experiments. And then the last question was basically that we sort of have an idea that our customers are not just one set of customers. So we couldn't just streamline things because we had an idea that these guys had completely different incentives and interests. So what I did, I wrote an email to, I think, about 5,000 people and just asked, how are you guys doing? Do you want to book in a meeting? I'm the CEO of this company. I would love to talk to you. And I made this insane doodle and took out 3 weeks of my time, basically 3 weeks of my full time. And then we started calling. I can only recommend it. It was very interesting. I'll show you, I made a big Excel sheet and started to basically try to structure unscalable data to just start somewhere. Very learningful. We've just been doing lots of sales, tracking, meeting and bookings and whatnot. And now I actually just talked to customers for 3 weeks. And I just want to present a bit of the feedback we got. And you bear in mind, this is not because we just want to do this. We want to, use this to try and get to a point where we can actually sort of absorb and deploy automated resources. So this is the kind of stuff I got out of it. This is pretty hard to read. These are names, company, title means they're, who are they? This is how do they use the system? Do they have any ideas for improvements? Status? Do they have any feature requests? Anything for sales? Obviously, if we could, sell them some more stuff. And then what do they think about our customer success team? They all loved our support because we just implemented live chat, which they loved. So great feedback on it. I also got to understand that we don't have one set of users. We always knew that, but now we got more specific in terms of who they actually are. So that we got grouped into some personas, or whatever you guys want to call it. And that will be crucial to succeed in automating our onboarding, because that is significantly different depending on who you are. We had administrators that basically didn't, care at all about how many people that were engaged in their church, because they just had to take care of making the admin and get home early from work. And then we had other people that were only keen on getting more engagement among their members and didn't care about the other part. And then we had, again, we had council and board members that were sort of on the periphery trying to strategize. So that was one of the key learnings. Then we learned that a lot of them were not using the system correctly. But they were very happy about it. And I'll get back to that one. And then we had some issues, going on in terms of something they were dissatisfied with. So I've concluded a lot on this, and this is sort of the journey trying to get to something that we can scale. I can only recommend trying to do some kind of, I'm actually planning on doing this, on a regular basis, maybe not for 3 weeks, but I think it's quite a good exercise. The second one I did was to send all users an email, not day 1, not day 2, we did a bit of experiments, but a few days after, and asked them, what do you expect to get out of this? And I did this after doing the other thing, because I wanted to understand, here there's still a blank piece of paper. So what they expect depends a lot on what they were told, the sales process, which then will relate to, how do they onboard? Will they end up be happy or not? And will they end up do this correctly? And I think I have the number. So 14% of these guys reply on this email, which I find quite impressive. And then I also started structuring all this data. By the way, we use Intercom. I think somebody asked. All these cases are basically built on Intercom at the moment. And again, this gets sort of specific to us, but I think you get the idea. A lot of them said that they're hoping to get an attractive website, which is not what we do. We do workflow management. We help them improve their admin, engage their members. We do have a website, and we've been moderating our pitch quite a bit. That came back to sales. That we have sort of I think you can all recognize where your customers are and where you want them to be. So that might, they might be onboarded and be dissatisfied if they believe they're buying something else. It's not that simple, because we do have a website. It's part of our solution, but it's not our key selling point. It's not where we're good. And then the green ones are people that understand, they're using the wording that we're trying to communicate. So there's also sort of a pushback to sales where it all begins, and now, email marketing or whatever we do. So it's sort of, I just started from scratch, and then we've sort of been working from there. And then, by the way, this is also quite funny, right? Hey, Christian. Thank you, Christian. Very much looking forward to this. I'm very grateful for the help. It's very personal, which I find interesting, because this is an auto-generated email, plain text, by the way. And part of my conclusion is also that we've been very keen on being personal in the way we communicate. Sort of make it informal, no corporate logo, no CEO, blah blah. It's just being personal, because I think it does make a difference. Then we did another test to basically ask them, where did you get stuck? And all these questions are pretty open, right? You get anything back. And that data you then need to somehow structure and then eventually automate it. So this one is sent out, I believe, so the first time they log in, they are not very interested in getting information for some reason. But a little later, they're more sort of approachable. So this one comes out a couple of days after they log in. I'm here to help you get started. And by the way, this goes out to everybody, also those that are completely successful in their onboarding. Let me know if I can help you. Do you have any questions at this point? Very quick email. Just to understand, how do they actually onboard as for now.
Question of that, is that intercom or email?
This is all intercom. This is a pop-up. The other ones are email. But we use both.
So it's in the product.
This is in the product. I believe.
It looks like it.
It looks like it, right? Yeah. We're also doing push on our app. Intercom allows us to do all of it. We're still sort of experimenting. And here we also got some funny stuff back. We have a lot of them that don't, something about password, which we found was a big obstacle. Very simple thing. They couldn't change their password. They couldn't log in. Just weird stuff. Then we had questions about payment. And this kind of stuff should not be there. That should not be part of the onboarding. So part of it is also just getting rid of noise, so we can actually focus on onboarding. So that was also a part of this exercise.
How many people you have answering these emails?
This one is 6%.
No. Like from your technical support or whatever.
We have 1.5 headcount for 3 languages. But they take care of onboarding, just questions. But my point later is that you can get very far in automating non-automated stuff. There are a lot of ways to do triggers and macros and stuff to really handle things. Quite scalable, even though it's not scalable at all. I believe, to a certain extent, we're talking 10,000 users. So we have a whole different, approach, at least so far. And I think we'll need to automate more and more. But you can still, to a certain extent, put macros on this kind of stuff to be efficient. And then there's just some fun stuff like, thanks for getting back. I'm making progress, Jens, and that kind of stuff. And this does make a difference. It does differ us from the other guys out there working with them. And it gives them a sense that this is a different product than what they're used to. It also, increases the likelihood of them recommending. We know that when we talk to them, we're also seeing much more inbound coming up. And I think this is partly because of it. And then some bugs. So there's also a way for us to, we're internationalizing, there's a lot of localization and stuff. So it's also a way for us to just detect is there anything that's not working like it should be? So these were 3 cases of things we've done, and we're now, this is not going to be part of it, but we are moving towards much more scalable implementation. But I think this was an important journey for us to sort of reboot that whole line of thought and not just jump to conclusions. So it's been an important sort of internal journey. So a few things. We're still not quite ready to automate this. We still push out a lot of open questions and try to structure that so we eventually can automate it. Maybe not fully, but do it partly. We can somewhat scale open questions. So when you do sort of ask questions and get something back, you can do a lot with macros and triggers in terms of getting back. Or just saving that reply or just closing it and just sort of keeping that in mind. Sometimes people just want to get back to you with something. We definitely understand better now that we need to do personas or segmentation on both our accounts and our users because they're different. We have a few different in each set of them, and we need to implement that in our onboarding and our retention, and by the way, also our marketing and sales. So this has also meant a pushback to further up the funnel. We've been doing a lot of illustrations of our sales and marketing also because of this. So it's been a sort of a whole bigger process. And then our users love that we're being personal. It's changed the way we communicate with our customers, and it allows us to reach out and ask for product feedback, recommendations, referrals in a different way because they're on first name. These 10,000 users are on first name with Jens and Burita that are sitting up here, which I think that's quite unique. I think that's about it. There's a postcard on one of the desks from one of our customers. So they send us postcards when they're on vacation. And I think that's it. Thank you.